strong win against Illinois in the beginning of the year. I know that might be difficult, I guess, this year, but how was that momentum last year from your perspective? You just felt so strong with the team.
Well, we needed it, coming off the disappointing year before, and for our guys and their mindset and their mentality, and so it was huge, and just finding a way to win those games, and a couple of them, obviously, we had to, get into overtime against, West Kentucky, and went on a field goal, and then the way we beat Illinois, and it was huge. But I think it also, it just shows you when, even though we lost Bedford in that first game, and that was a big blow, that when if we can just stay healthy, we stay healthy and do a great job of developing depth, that we can be a really good football team, and I believe that again this year. There's no question about it. But we got to keep our quarterbacks healthy. We got to play better up front on both sides of the ball. We've really changed our D line, and we got 6 new guys via the portal that they look different than most of the guys we've had here in the past at that position. And most, when people come watch us, they're like, that's the first thing that sticks out is that group. So and that's a big part of this game, is how good you are up front. So but those kind of successes early on are very important, and we play a tough early schedule as always. But at the same time, we got to be able to sustain it, and be able to finish those games out. And I've said it from the podium, and those 8 games that were decided in the fourth quarter, we got to, we won those games in 19 and 20. We did. And so, because we've always had a lot of close games here, and so we got to find a way to win them, in 23, and so how do you do that? Well, staying healthy is part of that. Being better up front, running the football better, helps takes pressure off your defense, takes pressure off your throw game when you get in less third and longs. That's a big part of this, and that's a big part of what we want to be able to do, and that's why we've emphasized that, and we got to live that out. We have to. And so, but this team, even though there's new faces, and I've said it several times today, I really, really am excited about the guys we have. We just got to come together, and obviously we spent a lot of time together so far, but now as a in fall camp, which is you feel like you're together from daylight till dark, during the camp mode for those 3 weeks, and so that's going to be an important part of this team. But being able to build, like you talked about, to have the ability to finish out those early games, get some great momentum at the start of the season, and then carry it on to the S, and then finish.
Sorry, to follow up on getting prepared and mindset. You had Matt Mayberry come in and talk to the team. Can you talk about what his message was to the team, and how important that, I think he calls them hepisms, how important that hepism is to the mental toughness of the game?
Well, I think that it was just great to hear him. We had not met in person till he came. We had talked on the phone several times and exchanged some text messages, and really had a chance to connect with him. And I learned pretty quickly that we had a very aligned thought process of how you do things and how you build things. And he's obviously in the business world and is a motivational speaker in that world and culture developer and all those different things. And so written a couple books. And I just thought our players needed to hear, even his own personal story was powerful for our guys, and why he came to Indiana, and he came here at a time when it was, not a lot of winning going on, and Coach Hepp convinced him to come, and he was one of the guys in his first class, and a chance to come in here, and obviously losing Coach Hepp, and but he never forgot the very things that he taught him, and just about the never quit quote, the whole poem that he just recites from memory, which is not a short poem, it's just so much about the grit and toughness it takes to be great, and to be able to come to a place like Indiana to trying to create a new future and create new opportunities and create new traditions and create new, things that they're known for, even maybe that hasn't been the case in the past. That's why he came there, and just hearing him talk about that, and just to be able, he talked about, setting the bar high and then jumping over the bar, was something he talked about that he learned from Coach Hepp, and how you set standards and expectations for yourself and for this program, and that's what we see us wanting to do. And so he and I had some really good times together before he talked and after he talked, and we're going to stay in close contact as well. So I just want to be able to bring guys that they can hear from, that have a great message, and just talk about taking ownership of your past, taking ownership of your present, and then taking ownership of your future, and how you have those daily habits that are going to be matching those goals and dreams you have for yourself and for this program. So I thought the guys, and they responded well. They loved having him, and he enjoyed being here, and we're going to try and get him back, be around our guys, bring him back for a game, and I know he's a really busy guy like a lot of folks are, but having Matt here was really special.
How do you approach, you've talked since the spring about how you felt summer was going to be really important for that quarterback sort of job and battle for that. You have a little bit of contact with those guys, with the TA,
Yep.
that stuff you've been doing player-led.
Yep.
And I guess, how do you approach thinking about that position? Do you try to put it out of your mind in the sense of not wanting to maybe overthink it at a time of year where you don't have eyes on these guys a lot? Do you go to them for feedback? Just how do you think about kind of a position battle like that in the summer months?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because it is a unique time of the year, and now that the NCAA did give us the OTA time that we took away from the 8 hours, per the week to be with our guys, and we took full advantage of that. And when we did that, especially in the month of June, we did it for a couple of days in July where the coaches were with them when they were back together. And so, but during those times, they had to be no ball period, so we couldn't throw the ball. And so you don't get a chance to see that part of it. And so, but for me, it's more the leadership piece. How do they, develop a relationship with their teammates over the summer? How are they doing a great job of growing in their leadership? Because there's a lot of things where we're not there, and just being able to get the feedback from the players. And so I individually met with every single one of our leadership council guys at the end of the summer. I've never done that before. And so I wanted to get their one-on-one thoughts about, their position group, their side of the football, and the whole team. And so for me, that was insightful about where those quarterbacks are and just hearing from their teammates about, because that to me, you think about part of the variable in picking the starter is what do the other 10 guys think? What do they believe about that guy? I think that's massive. I think that's such a huge part. Now it's hard to, to quantify in some ways, but there's also a gut feel to that. But talking to those guys, hearing from them, okay, how have they done leading? How have they interacted? How have they done with the receivers? Because they got to get the receivers together and they got to throw with them. They got to get the running backs together. They got the tight ends together. And so to me, that's really a chance for them. Without us being there, you get a chance to see who they really are as a leader. So I really put a lot of stock in that. And then, right now it's a matter of, okay, now we are going to be throwing the football. We're going to be able to, everything's going to be charged. So it's more specific to the documentation of things in the fall camp. And in the summertime, it's a little more ambiguous maybe per se in terms of writing things down because you don't have the measurables to go after, but it does matter. And you can get a feel for how they're perceived by their teammates in a big way, I think, during the summer. Not live. I mean, we're not going to, no, not live to where they're going to get tackled. But we are going to do some things to try and be able to create for them to have to move around more and not make it to be where anybody's close to them. We're going to blow the whistle. We're going to do some things a little more aggressive than that, but they're not going to be tackled, no. Yeah, I don't ever want to give, our first opponent anything extra that they would be beneficial. Obviously, the players will know and all that, kind of procedure will be handled that way. But, yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not going to give anything out before I need to.
I'm going to ask you to give me something out before you need to. Last year with Dexter, we saw particularly that Purdue game before he got hurt. Some extra kind of option concepts and things. Some of the stuff that you can run the ball, side to side out of the Coach Bell's system. Mm-hmm. Do you think those guys could do some of that too? Whether it's Brendan or Taman, some options, quarterback design, quarterback run, not just he can tuck it.
Yeah. Well, I think with Dexter, that definitely was, what he did best, So what we have to do is we got to make sure whoever we pick, we got to make sure we're doing a tremendous job for once that decision is made, and obviously be within the system of what we have to be able to maximize their skill set, what they do best. And so to me, any time that person is a variable in the equation, that's a positive thing. So, but there's no question that really fit who Dexter was, and you saw the benefits of that, and you can see how valuable that was. And obviously, we expect Dexter to play. I mean, I think there's going to be a coming time, point of the season where, he comes back. That's what I would expect. I mean, I don't know when it's going to be, but I do believe that too. So, but at the same time, whoever we pick, we're going to build it around their strengths and help them be as most successful possible.
Coach, I got my positive question for you. I always like to try to give you. Grew up in a household with your dad being the coach.
Yep.
You're a coach. What does that mean to you, knowing that your dad was a coach and you're getting to do a lot of the things that he did and kind of living vicariously and maybe doing some of the things you got to do?
It's pretty special, because when you see it as a young person and you grow up and you see the players, and I looked up to those guys. I mean, I thought those guys were my heroes, and I wanted to be like those guys. And I used to think they were so big, and then when you grow up and then you meet them later and they come back and I'm taller than they are, some of them. But you just live that way. And so to be in this role is pretty awesome. And then my own son is now one of our GAs. And so he's going to be, a coach. And I just think that anytime you can pass on a legacy legacy of impact, the legacy of being able to do the very thing that your own dad did, and how much I loved it. I loved going to. I mean, I couldn't wait as a elementary kid to get picked up by my dad and go get on ride the team bus to the games and ride on the bus back. And I look forward to it every single week and loved going to practice when I could. And, fall camp was big for me because that's before school started. So I was always there. And I just, I used to sit in on the coaches' meetings when I was a kid with my dad, and I loved it. And so to do the very thing that he's doing, and it's pretty cool. And for him to come back, and he's obviously he's 85 now, and his health has been hard, but at the same time, we're blessed to have him still with us, and be able to share in this time together, and then also pass these things on to his grandson and our son. It's pretty cool.
You were mentioning in your previous statements about how it's an exciting opportunity when you're going to be divisionless just because of that equitable scheduling. How much of a difference do you think it makes when you don't necessarily have the 3 top 5 teams in the country every year on your schedule?
What do you think? No, it's going to be different. I mean, and obviously it's going to rotate, and I tell you what, you had USC and UCLA and USC. When you look to see the way that they have recruited the last several years, I mean, they're right there with the top 5 teams in the country. So it's the conference is deep. There's no doubt, and everybody you play is going to be good. And so, but Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan, just historically speaking, I mean, they've been 3 of the top 10 programs in the nation for a long, long time. So they're hard to beat. And when they played the teams from the West Division, you can just look the record up yourself. I won't give it to you. I know exactly what it is. You can figure it out. But bottom line is that they're tough to beat, and so a lot of respect for them. And bottom line, though, is I do think it's a good thing for the whole conference to have everybody playing each other in a more equitable way. I think it's good for everybody, and so, but bottom line is that we're going to play whoever they put out on our schedule. And we know what the 24 and the 25 schedule is right now. It'll probably change from 26 and 27, I'm sure, for what might be slated at this point. But that's what they put out. And so it's an exciting time to be part of this conference. And when you think you're coast to coast now, which we are, it changes recruiting. And I'm excited. I've never played UCLA or USC in a game, and other than the bowl game out there, my first game as head coach, I've not played in the state of California before, outside of that. So just a new time, new era. And it's going to be a lot of travel, a little different. We got to figure out those cross-country flights and everything for mid-year games. But at the same time, I think that any time you can add really, really quality programs to your conference, that's nothing but a great thing.
Coach Jalen Lucas talked about a desire to maybe play in the slot and a little bit outside receiver packages. In what areas have you seen him kind of grow spring camp and then throughout the summer?
Yeah, he's worked extremely hard at just ball skills, catching the balls and being able to be extremely dependable in that area, and for a guy that's built the way he is, and he doesn't have long features, so but he's as hard a worker as I've ever been around. I mean, that kid is out there every possible moment, catching kicks and punts and just catching any ball he can, as a receiver, as out of the backfield, as a running back. And he's a running back first, but at the same time, we got a very versatile guy that can do multiple things. And so it's about getting your best playmakers to football. And he's that guy. He's one of those guys for sure. We have several guys that we put in that category. And so I'm proud of him. He had a great freshman year, but he didn't do anything but just work even harder, and that really excites me.
You talked about how you watch similar players in terms of size and stature, D'Anthony Thomas, Tavon Austin, Deuce Vaughn, who was at Kansas State last year. What value do you think comes to him watching smaller players like that from a coach's perspective?
I think it's good. I think that we always challenge our guys that, hey, who you emulate your game after, and obviously he's built a lot like those guys. And there's certain things that body type can do well, and there's things that they may be challenged by. So I don't think there's any problem with looking at those guys and saying, hey, I want to be a guy like that. I want to be a guy that can do those kinds of things. And at the end of the day, if you're that kind of size, you got to be really, really special in space. And you got to be able to avoid those big collisions, and that's really what, he has the ability to do, And so, but at the same time, he's got to take the next step as a player. I think he's worked really hard to get that, but he's got to earn it on game day.
You mentioned last week about a touch count for him. Do you put a number on it internally, like how many times you want to?
Oh, yeah, we do. We've already done that. And so, we're not going to – no, but we do.
How do you try to generate that?
Well, to me, it's going to be his total touches. That includes special teams and everything. Because every time a guy touches the football, then obviously he has a chance to make a play. And like I said, we got several guys that we felt we got to get these guys the football. So, but because of his versatility at his position, as well as being able to get the ball to him as a receiver, as a running back, and in the return game, that to me is really, really important. And so I think he's just a guy that we know for sure. At the end of the day, we got to make sure he touches the ball a certain number of times.
Is it a range or?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Well, I think, it's like anything else. So, like, if you want to be a really elite pass rusher, it really helps you if you got another guy on the other side that they got to deal with. If they just got to focus on you, then it's, becomes, a little simpler. All right. But now they start focusing on you, and that's going to create one-on-ones with other talented players that are around him. So everybody's going to benefit from that. And the bottom line is that, he's had to enhance his skill set to be able to, for us to have more opportunities to get in the football. And so that's been the focus this offseason, is how can we continue to develop his skills to where he is a true threat in the throw game, in the run game, and also be able to stay on the field to, hey, may have to protect the quarterback in pass protections, which is something that was hard for him a year ago, and then to also be able to expand his role in the return game, So to me, that's on him. And that's the thing. And I sat down with him, mapped out, this is what we want you to work on this whole offseason, and that's what he's been doing.
Tom, you mentioned when you were doing the earlier press conference, and it was in context of not calling defensive plays, how other things take you away from things like that. Some of the CEO parts of being a football coach. I know football coaches aren't having to learn coaching on the field.
Yeah.
How hard is it these days, especially with the changes that have come in the last couple of years, to deal with the things that take you away from the field?
Yeah, I think that's always the catch-22 of being the head coach over being a coordinator. The thing that most of us, we got into this game for two reasons. At least I look at it this way. Like, I got in this game because, man, I want to impact young men's lives, and I love coaching ball. I really enjoy the process of getting ready for an opponent. I love studying the film. That doesn't tire me. It doesn't wear me. I mean, I enjoy it. It takes a lot of hours, but I enjoy that. So that's the part I miss, when I don't call it, But at the same time, I also believe that, as a head coach, you have a tremendous opportunity for impact on a lot of people's lives. And so I put a lot of value into that. So that, to me, is why I feel like that I still feel energized, because I'm only doing one of the two things that really drove me into this profession. But I'm also really in a maximum amount of position to impact not just players, but coaches and their families. And so I feel like that still gives me tremendous purpose. And I'm also very involved defensively, even though I'm not calling it. But I would really, if I didn't get a chance to be part of that at all, schematically, that would be kind of hard, So, but that's the part I got. So right now, the way it works is I need to be able to walk out of that defensive room or that offensive room when I'm with the administrative staff and deal with the administrative issue, or you talk about being the CEO, which we basically are of our organization. So I think you got to balance that, but it's also part of you got a great opportunity to impact a lot of people when you're in the head coach role.
It's a little weird that everything's coming in 2024, the new team, the conference, the schedule, but we still have one more season before all that happens. There's going to need to be changes with your program, how you prepare for things and all of that. How do you deal with this season knowing the changes?
Well, I mean, you compartmentalize. I mean, we know what's coming next, but we've not really spent any time dealing with that right now, So we got, I have a systematic way of trying to approach that, in regards to our DFO and how we're planning ahead with him. But from a football perspective, we're not really talking about anything other than, what's ahead of us in week one, So, but I'm also not a tunnel. I realize I can't have just tunnel vision on things. I have to be able to have a big picture view of where we're going. And so I just think it's an exciting time. You thought about you, and you also throw in the 12-team playoff. That's another new part of the 24 season. So definitely exciting things ahead for sure for college football and for the Big Ten. But, right now the main focus is, and the one focus is, getting our team ready for fall camp and ready for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Tom, from your game against Ohio State last year, do you remember about challenges from somebody like Marvin Harrison and just the challenges?
Yeah, he's special, and they have a special quarterback and special receivers, and not just him. You talk about having multiple guys you got to deal with, and so, and a massive offensive line, So I just think that they create a lot of issues, and so it's hard to focus in on just one guy without question. Now they will have, a couple new tackles and a new quarterback as their starters, whoever that might be, and so you got to be able to adapt to figure out who that's going to look and how that's going to affect their offense and how their offense will look. But regardless, it's going to be a very talented player playing any of those three spots, So. But and Harrison's one of those guys where, it's like anybody else. You got to be able to decide, how do you handle that guy? Is it a group effort? And if you put too much emphasis on him, is it going to hurt your other players? Obviously it will. So we got to do a great job of not allowing a player like that to be able to take a game over and then end up beating you.
What stands out about him versus him? They've had a lot of good receivers.
Yeah, they have.
What stands out about
Well, his size and speed, and I'm telling you, his ball skills are ridiculous. That guy just doesn't drop balls, and makes some unbelievable catches. So that makes for, when you got length and you got speed and you got phenomenal ball skills, that makes for a very tough matchup. It's hard to say, well, what do you take away from the guy? How can you, we do have some longer corners and some bigger DBs, which will help, in that regard. But at the same time, how much do you want to put a guy one-on-one with him? That's a tough matchup for anybody to be able to do. But you know what? We got some guys that are going to have to rise up, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to cover guys in certain situations. And I'm not saying you're going to play man on him the whole time, but he's going to have that. And that's why, that's what he's working for, and that's what we're working for. So end of the day, you got a really, really talented football team that's got probably, one of the best, if not the best, receiver I've ever gone against.
Coach, I'm from the Grand Rapids area, and you recently offered Bobby Kavaleski out of East Grand Rapids a walk-on opportunity. What stood out to you about him, and why give him this walk-on opportunity?
I tell you what, he's passionate about Indiana. And he really wanted to be a part of our program. And obviously he's a guy that has position flexibility. He can play offensive line, he can play tight end. And just want guys that are passionate about coming to Indiana and helping this program improve in any way possible. And when we have a guy as a walk-on, I want guys that are here for all the right reasons. Guys that are going to be going to class, and they're going to do an excellent job in that classroom, represents a first-class way, and are going to do everything right off the field, on the field, in the workouts. And he just comes across as a guy to me who's going to just be a tremendously hard worker, that I'm not going to have to worry about anything that he's doing or not doing. He's going to be where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. And that's what you get when you get a guy that really cares about the opportunity he's been given, and he realizes it's pretty special.
Coach Allen, another recruiting question for you. As a guy that covers Fort Wayne area teams, what have you liked about just the caliber of talent that's come out of the area, just knowing you've brought in some Fort Wayne folks over the years as a coach?
Yeah, I tell you, it's been an increase, I would say, of guys that are being, recruited to and by the Power 5 schools in the country. And so, it's a really good pocket of football and highly competitive conference. A lot of guys, very good coaches in that league, and very well prepared, So, anytime you get, that many guys, and then you start growing and you start seeing more in the future. So, and I think it motivates other guys, to be able to, you take some of those guys that play multiple sports, and they know, hey, I may love basketball, but man, I can go to football and be a guy that stands out, as a guy that has this type of athleticism, and so in at the receiver position or DB position. So yeah, it's become, especially the last few years, a lot of guys up there, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come.
Going back to the quarterbacks, you mentioned just the importance of leadership just
Yeah.
in competition. How much of a challenge do you think that is for guys like Taven and Brendan, who this is their second year of college football? And are there any moments you can point to in the spring or summer where you kind of have seen those leadership traits come out?
Yeah, and I tell you, we've had a lot of one-on-one conversations about this very thing. I'm only a second-year college player, and how do I insert myself in this situation? So we talk it through. We explain, this is what this should look like, and how do you get to that point, And so at the core of that is relationship building. When you build a relationship with your teammates, you earn the right to speak into their life, And if you don't, and you try to speak into their life in a critical moment of a, heated, workout or whatever, it doesn't usually end very well, So building those has been a real big part of this offseason. And I think they both have tremendous ability in those areas. And, we did some leadership training with our whole team the last couple of days. And I thought those two guys rose throughout. We did 2 days of it. And I thought they rose and they grew throughout that whole process. So to me, it's intentional for us, building team, building bonds, building our guys, in those two positions. Here's what I look at it. I want, in a perfect scenario, you want your linebackers to be your best leaders of your defense, and you want your quarterbacks to be your top leaders on your offense. because those two positions run that side of the ball. And eventually, whoever's going to run the team is going to come out of one of those two rooms, in my opinion. That's the way it should be, Now, sometimes by personality and by the nature of the position, another guy has to step up, but I think our best teams are when it comes from those rooms. And so I'm excited about both those guys and their leadership potential because, number one, they want to be leaders, but they also have the ability to articulate themselves in key situations, and they got the passion to stand up and do it.
Tom, what can you do as a staff away, aside from injuries? I understand injuries are part of the game and you can't do anything about that. To create some stability at the quarterback on the field, not just leadership skills, but actual, on the field skills. What can you do as a staff?
Well, I think first of all, you got two younger quarterbacks, and our quarterback room there's no seniors in that room, So I think just having the ability to have a multi-year starter, is a great start, and be able to have guys that come in here and compete and they stay, And so to me, keeping them healthy is a big part of that. And that's part of our offensive line play. That's part of our, receiver play, our running back play, and protecting them and all the things that they do. So I think it's a collective effort to me. And you got some young guys that are in our program that I hope will be with us for a long time. And that to me is the key, because I think you're going to always have some turnover, but you don't want it to be every year turnover. You want it to be, hey, this guy's going to be a multi-year starter. Obviously Dexter did some really good things the last part of the season and had as freaky of an injury as I've ever seen, and so with nobody touching him, everything went apart. So, but I feel like that, he was a guy that I was excited about what he was showing he could do for the future, and that hopefully can return as well. But at the same time, I just think we want to make sure we do a great job of protecting those guys. Starts up front, starts to be able to run the football, and that'll take a lot of pressure off that quarterback.
Have you adjusted at all the way that you look at quarterbacks in particular in the transfer portal? Because you've gotten so many guys through transfers.
Yeah, I think.
What works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, for that, I think it still comes down to, it's that position, other position that you want to make sure that it's a fit. It's a guy that understands what you're trying to do as a program and what you're trying to do schematically and doing a great job of getting the right ones in that spot. And so, obviously with Taven coming in as a transfer in that room, the other two guys came to us, out of high school. And I feel like that, Dexter came to us out of high school. So he's our third guy in that room that's a high school guy. And so I just feel like that you're trying to develop that stability. But if you have to insert a guy that's older at that position or in position, you got to make sure they fit with you, because that person above all has to be a great locker room and culture fit for you.
With quarterback being up in the air, how important will it be to establish the run game?
Oh, I think it's huge, and I think that takes some stress off that position without question. So it's been an emphasis without a doubt. Getting Matt Bedford back is a big part of that. I'm excited about him being back. He's 100% right now and ready to go, and he's worked extremely hard this offseason. So just trying to, it doesn't just affect that position. It affects our defense. It affects our whole team. So I know that's a huge priority, and that's what we're put a lot of emphasis on. And Coach Bostad is going to be a big part of that.
I feel like the Wild West aspect of NIL is leveled off at all. You're starting to kind of feel your way through it.
Well, I think the Wild West part of it in regards to what's going on around us, no, that's getting even crazier by the day. But how you feel about it and how you kind of manage it, yeah, that's gotten better, and you kind of decide, okay, I'm going to focus on this. I'm not going to focus on this, and we have had some growth in that area, which has been very important, but we got to continue that growth. We got to continue to move forward with that as a program. And so, but I think, it's like anything else. I think you kind of get used to, I'm going to put my energy into this. I'm not going to get all worked up about this, and so, but at the same time, you're now talking about a variable that affects the roster. Like as I explained this in the past, you can have different budgets, and that affects the size of your stadium, or maybe how big your press box looks, or how big your weight room is, or how big your locker room is, or all the little fancy things you have in there. Well, now you're talking about resources that go to the actual players themselves and the quality of the players themselves. And to me, that's why the NFL puts all their money into paying their players and not worrying about having some fancy facility that comes. It's going to be nice, but it's not going to be anything over the top. Why? Because, hey, let's use this money to get the best players. And so there's a lot of places that are using that money, through their collectives to be able to pay those players. So that's where it's become really, really out of control, and that's the part that it's got to get addressed. And I know everybody knows that. We just got to find somebody that has a great plan and they can have the ability to get that plan implemented and get some positive change.
When you see some of the plans that have been put together by legislators in the last couple of weeks, whether it's the first one or the second one that for some reason was involved in senators, I guess, what's your opinion on what they've communicated?
I haven't sat down and totally studied them all. I've kind of seen I read the articles as they come out and try to get a feel for it as best I can. I obviously have no control over any of that, but I do feel like that I am strongly in favor of this. That whatever we do, we still have to understand, why we're doing what we're doing. I'm an educator. I've spent a lot of time as a high school teacher and coach. Educational leadership was my master's, and I got my principal's license, and I believe in the value of education. And if we lose sight of that with what we're doing, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing for our players. When I go through and you look at the numbers of how many guys actually make a living in the NFL, it's a very, very, very small percentage. And so these guys are coming here to get their education, and the vast majority are never going to play a snap past playing college football. So if we're doing things that are encouraging them to lessen their chance of getting a college degree, we're not doing things the right way, in my opinion. So I don't want to get away from that. And so that's the tough piece with all this. But at the same time, I'm excited about the fact that players have an opportunity to earn, money through NIL. If it's done the right way, it can be an amazing thing, And so, and I just see this thing as a revenue sharing direction we have to go. How that looks, how that works. We got to have people that are in bigger positions than I am to figure that out. But I know they're trying to do that. I think the NCAA needs to take charge of this. I think we as coaches need to take charge of this within our conferences, our commissioners, and be able to go and get together and decide what's best for college football in our future. But I want to protect the educational piece of this, which is why we're here. And I want to make sure we have NFL has done a pretty good job of figuring some things out. The salary cap works. Okay, we have to have some way of being able to cap these opportunities, because to me, that's now you're still going to have an unlimited. If a young man has, and this is part of the balancing part of this, how do you control or how do you limit the NIL piece, from a true NIL piece where you're, because of my name and my image and my likeness or my reputation, I'm able to cash in on that whole piece. Well, that's different than having, a third party pay for you to come play football at your school. And right now that's really what's happening, so that's the challenging part of the whole deal, but I think the revenue sharing piece is a very important part of where we're going. How that looks, we got to figure it out, so I know I said quite a bit there, but I want to protect the educational part of what we're doing, and I want to make sure we do a great job of, having a more equitable situation with some type of a cap to be able to allow it to where it's not just out of control spending.
What does it mean to have the last two guys from the 2018 class who represented Indiana here today? Do you remember first meeting Aaron and Noah? Do you think stories from when he?
Well, here's pretty cool about Noah. So he was committed to Miami, Ohio. Okay, and so undersized guy that I know some say, man, this guy's too small. I'll tell you what, there was just something about him that I knew was special. And matter of fact, my wife, she reminded me of this. She said, you told me this kid's going to be a really special player, even though he was not, we might have been his only Power 5 offer, but the toughness he showed in high school, the grit that I thought he had, I was right. There's just something special about that kid, and he persevered 3 years as a backup and playing on special teams and not getting to play a ton on defense and just being a sub, and that was hard for him. And he just stayed the course, and he kept battling. And so proud of him for being able to really prove that, man, he did have something special to him, and he is a really, really talented player. Yeah, he's undersized, but man, that what's inside of him, which you can never measure, is huge. And so that's why he's here today. And his teammates love him, they respect him. He's going to help us a ton this year. And then Aaron Casey, he was a high school safety. We saw him, we say, hey, we think you're going to be a linebacker. And he's obviously playing in the high safety position the whole time. He never played in the box much. And so you got to teach him those things. And so he had a little bit to learn from that. But, he's just such a consistent, hard-working guy. He obviously won the 44 number for a reason for George Talafero. That's a special honor to have. And so to have those two guys to show tremendous leadership and perseverance, to stay the course through the ups and downs of what they've been through since they've been here, is pretty special. So couldn't have two better guys representing this program and just representing the grit and perseverance that IU football is all about.
Coach, Jalen Lucas, that in this Wild West environment, he said, I'm going to stay the course and stay at IU.
Let me tell you this. So the season ended. All right, this just shows you how things have changed. All right, so as soon as we were done, okay, I made a home visit to his house, okay? And so, because I knew how special he was. I went down home. I flew down there and I met with his parents. And, I mean, you know, usually you do that for recruits. you do home visits when you're recruiting. Well, we had to, you know, make sure that he knew that we were going to do a great job of helping him be rewarded for, you know, his performance. He's the first team All-American. That's pretty special now. As a true freshman, that doesn't happen very often. And so, but you know what? You know, that's a relationship piece. You know, they trust us, we trust them. And I get it. I mean, that's the neat part of, you know, this whole opportunity is he's able to do some things and be a part of some things now that are really helping his family. And they're really good people, you know, and they, you know, it's been a huge blessing for them to be able to have this opportunity. So that excites me. But you know what? I knew what I had to do, you know, because, yeah, you can say that, but if we don't do anything with it, you know, we're going to lose them. You know, and that's the new world that we're in right now. And so that's a really special part of what we have, but we got to be willing and understanding of that. And our school stepped up and responded, and that's the case for several other guys as well. And so, and I want to be able to do that for as many guys as possible because, to me, this is a window of time to help them and be able. It's not generational situation financially, but it also is something that can be a real blessing and encouragement to them and help them do some things they couldn't do in the past.
Coach, I asked Noah over there why he chose IU and then why he chose to stay with IU after those 3 years, and his answer was you, Tom Allen. His answer was that. What does that mean to you as a coach?
Well, you know, I feel the same way about him. You know, he's the reason why I do what I do, is to find special guys like that gave him a great opportunity to come to the Big Ten when maybe nobody else saw something special in him, and poured into his life, and he's responded. And you know, he's matured so much. He's always been a great kid, but just to see him stay the course and grow, it means a lot. It really does. And in this day and age, when guys can just go wherever they want to go, you know, that's you know, I take it personal when they leave. It hurts, you know, and I get it. I'm not trying to, you know, say, but I've heard a lot of coaches say that. I mean, it's who we are. You know, I care about our guys, and I want everybody to be able to come here and have a maximized opportunity and experience. But I get it. Only so many guys can play, you know, all the time. And so, but yeah, I just, you know, once again, just kind of reminds you why you do what you do, and be able to bring a guy like that here and see him be rewarded for his perseverance is pretty cool.
It sounded like you were saying there's kind of been a shift with donations being shifted more towards NIL away from like facilities and departments like that. Is that a paradigm you're seeing across college football?
It is, you know, and because here's the thing. I mean, it's, you know, I was raised in the church, so I'll just give you a little bit of a parallel. So when you're, as a kid growing up, you know, your church does a building fund, all right? So they start raising money to build a new building, right? Well, you're just asking the same people to give the money, so usually that money increases in that fund, and then the other ones go down, right? Well, it's no different. So you got all this money you're having people give to Indiana University, like every college has, every university has, and so you're dealing with the same people. Well, you know what? They may not have any increase in their resources, so they're just going to give, you know, less here and more over here, you know. So, and that's kind of a restructuring of how do you want people and where do you want to direct them. And to me, you know, I get it. You got to fund your scholarships and you got to fund NIL. That to me should be the focus right now. And so, fortunately for us, we've had some good. You know, I want to see us do some things with getting our indoor renovated. There's no question about that. But I'm saying, hey, invest it in those scholarships and invest it in NIL. That's the message for me, and I believe that's what we should be doing.
Coaches have talked about their players getting specific offers from other teams. Do you know if Jalen Lucas got offers, or are you aware of that? I mean, I'm assuming you know there was interest, but do you know if he got offers?
Well, let me just tell you this. So I never sat down and said, because I always tell people the truth. So I never said, have you gotten an offer from somebody else? I knew he did. Okay. I'm not, you know, I was born at night, but not last night. Okay. And so that's exactly what happened. But that's why I was down there as soon as I could to be able to get with that family and get in front of them and just show them how we felt about him and what we're going to try to be able to do. Okay. So, but that's just how it is now. You know, the tampering piece is going on, and it is bad, okay? And so I'm not going to sit here and but at the same time, you know, I want to do the best job. All I can control is create an environment that they want to be a part of, you know? And so when we have an individual like that, we got to make sure we're being proactive. And so, you know, it's just the nature of what it is right now, and we just got to be aggressive and don't assume anything.
If I could follow up on something you said earlier about NIL, you said that we need to meet the hat. Are you speaking for a program, and why do players need to have their earnings capped if that's what?
Well, I'm just saying that if the NFL, all right, had a situation where, and this is really very, very true, okay, if you could put whatever you wanted to put into your roster, okay, and you got 32 teams, okay, you would not have a very good product at the end of the day. You're going to have one group that's got way up here, and you got all different things. And so to me, from a revenue sharing perspective, I could see that being a situation where because we all receive the same amount of money from the TV revenue. Now, where a young man earns from a true NIL perspective, I don't think that's just whatever your value is what you get. But I'm talking about when you have, because right now, the schools can't put any of their money towards NIL. Okay, and I think that needs to change. I really do. Now, that's just me. That's my opinion. So you asked me, I told you. And so, but that to me needs to be set. You know, you come and play in the Big Ten, this is what you get. You play in this conference, this is what you get. And it's based off the revenue that your program gets. Now, you may be able to say, you know, you get a lump sum of money and you can be able to distribute it, you know, however you choose to. I get that. But the amount that you get will be consistent. That to me is what I'm talking about.
When you talk about NIL and revenue sharing, and I recognize there's not a perfect answer.
Yeah, there's not.
Do you sense that that's a near-term development, possibly moving to revenue sharing? And how do you almost sort of plan for that when you're trying to talk to kids and they want to talk about NIL, they want to talk about those opportunities, but there's maybe something else out there on the horizon that might add a layer to it?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question because I've actually had some conversations with some families about that. And I would say more of our younger guys, you know. It's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen next year. I don't see that. But something has to give, you know. And I'm kind of passionate about this because I'm like, this is the direction that we're going, and this is going to affect the whole future of our game. So I feel like for the next couple of years, something's going to have to be, you know, changed by the current system. And so I've talked to parents openly about it. I see this coming down the pipe, you know, as far as that opportunity for guys. And so we'll see if I'm right or not. But I just know the current system right now has got to be addressed, you know, and I think everybody agrees with that. Anybody I've talked to that really doesn't. Now, the answers are hard, and there's not a lot of clear ones because it's a very complex issue. But at the same time, I think, you know, keeping it in-house, you know, from the universities is a big part of that, protecting the academic focus that we need to have and making sure we do a great job of having as much competitive balance as we can because that creates the best product. That makes football exciting to watch when you got a lot of teams that have opportunity to be in the mix for a 12-team playoff, which is, I think, a really awesome future for college football. I just know that right now we're headed a direction where there's a lot of inequity, and it makes it really, really challenging. Appreciate you guys. Have an awesome day, Elio.